I'd like to call to order the Smyrna Planning Commission for March 1, 2018. And at this time, we'd ask everyone to stand for our prayer and pledge, please.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for this day, Lord. We're thankful for the blessings that you give us, Father. We thank you for the blessing to be able to live in a free country, Lord. We just pray your blessings on our city, Father. We pray your blessings on our meeting tonight. Just guide our thoughts and our words, Lord. Give us the wisdom to make the right decisions, Father. Lord, I ask you to pray that you'll be with our firemen and our police officers, Lord, and just thank you for them taking care of us and protecting our city. Lord, go with us now, and I just pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3, citizens' comments. None at this time.
That's correct.
Moving on to item number 4, approval and/or corrections of the minutes. Do we have any additions or corrections to the minutes as they were handed out? If not, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 5, new business. Item A, annexation, plan of service. Staff comments.
Yeah, this is an annexation with an R3 zoning request attached to it. It's on Baker Road, so directly where 1 Mile Lane dead ends into Baker Road. It's about 16.71 acres. Surrounding zoning in the county is all RM. It is also across the street from the Meadows PRD. Land use plan would support a medium density single family residential development in this area, so it's consistent with our land use plan. The request is not contiguous to the city as it was submitted to us. And so we are recommending that the city, if we do consider annexation, that you would consider also annexation of the existing right-of-way of Baker Road, basically from the I-24 right-of-way south to the southern boundary of the requested property. It's about 1,500 feet or so. That would make it contiguous, would allow for the town to have control over there if we decided we'd need to look at any road improvements or anything like that, which we haven't really looked at that at this time. This is within CUD service boundary for water. Other than that, all other services would be provided by the town on this property upon annexation. We have had some calls from the neighbors in that area, so there is some interest in this from the neighborhood. So maybe if it moves forward to the planning council and at the public hearing, they would have an opportunity to speak. But I guess that is all that I've got.
Okay, do y'all have questions?
I got one. Kevin and Tim, some of y'all could probably jump in. I think our goal is still to focus on that Rocky Fork Road interchange. Hypothetically, if it got moved over to a Baker Road interchange at some point, is there something here we would need to look at or address?
Well, certainly if we ever wanted to pursue that, yeah, I mean, we would, the right-of-way is pretty wide there at 24 now. But it would have to be an additional right-of-way would have to be purchased.
I know this is just for zoning. I'm just kind of thinking ahead a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, yeah, we did talk about having an additional interchange between Almaville and 840. I think Murfreesboro is looking at something in that area too. So the exact location of that, I think it would have to be further away than for the existing Baker Road location. I think that would be too close to Almaville.
Right.
So, but it certainly, if you come down south or southeast on 24, I guess it could affect this property potentially. But that's, again, there's been nothing beyond the major thoroughfare plan that we looked at it, that's really as far as we've gone with it. We've not done any kind of further study on it as far, from any kind of actual specific location.
I don't think this is the focus area for that, but in the future it could be.
I mean, certainly, I mean, you would have to come further, like I said, further down 24 from the current Baker Road. But yeah, certainly it could affect this, I guess. I think it probably more likely will be a little bit further down 24 than this.
Okay,
But
thanks.
Any other questions?
What's the potential yield as far as number of homes here?
well, the engineer emailed me that today, actually. It was about 44 lots is what they're looking at. I kind of just typical R3 lot with the acreage roughly 50, so 44 is what they're actually looking at doing.
There may be some topography that maybe perhaps limits it, or
Right.
or
There may be
what you can
something
do
like
there.
that might limit it. I was just looking just raw acreage and kind of discounting it some for roads and detention pond, and that sort of stuff.
10,000 square foot minimum lots
Yes.
on R3. Somewhere 3.5 is usually the max we see on an R3 type.
Right.
By the time you account for roads and easements.
Right.
Could you elaborate a little bit further on your Baker Road comments as far as, from a staff perspective, seeing this and then seeing the meadows, what you would think may need to occur here?
We haven't really looked at it, and there's been no traffic study or anything like that. The Meadows, as part of their approval, there was some road improvements at the intersection that they were required to
At
make.
1 mile in Baker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so there will be some road improvements with that development.
Is that turn lanes?
I believe there was a left turn lane, and then I think there was a turn lane on 1 mile lane into the development as well at their main development entrance. Again, we haven't really looked at it beyond that, but we felt like it was important to annex the roadway so we would have a little bit of control
Yeah.
over that. 44 lots, depending on how much the traffic count is right there, it may or may not need something, but you
But
may
we would
wanna-
have the option at
we
that
have
point.
the option to look at that, yeah.
Okay. And for purposes for tonight, we're just looking at annexation and
In
zoning,
R3
correct?
zoning, correct. yeah.
Okay.
Is that the only parcel on the right side that would be annexed in? Everything else is still county?
Yes, that's
Then
the only
everything on-
parcel.
Everything on the left is already Smyrna.
Well, no, the part on the map that's highlighted in yellow, that's Smyrna.
That's the new one going in the corner.
Right. This is the only parcel that's been requested to be annexed, so it's the only parcel we can annex.
So everything, Shadowbrook, Merganser, those are still,
It's still in the county,
County.
yes. Beyond holding a referendum, this is all we could annex.
Okay.
So,
By annexing the road, we could stipulate access, how they orient their drive into the subdivision.
well, we could still do it anyway. I think it's just, I mean, number one, it makes the property contiguous to the city is my main thing. If we don't make it contiguous, we can do non-contiguous, but it's a little bit more, a lot more headache and paperwork, quite frankly, because you have to work with the county on different things, and both bodies have to adopt resolutions and different things on things as far as services and stuff. And so it just makes sense to go ahead and annex the road when it's right there like this, so.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that for the reason you stated, plus the ability to control, because I know it gives us an avenue to control traffic and help with traffic flow there when we do stuff like that.
Other questions? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve with staff comments.
Which includes annexing
In the road.
the road.
Yes.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under new business, Item B, rezoning request, Williamsport Drive. Staff comments.
Yeah, this is a piece of property. It's about 43.3 acres. Has 3 roads stubbed into it. Or actually, well, actually technically 4, because Williamsport Drive in 2 locations, as well as Bonifay and High Ridge, have all been stubbed into the property. This is basically pretty much completely surrounded by developed subdivisions, but this is 43 acres that has not been developed, and it's currently zoned R1, and they've requested to be rezoned to R3. Surrounding zoning is all R3. And the land use plan would support medium density residential here, and so it is consistent with our land use plan for the area. We've had a lot of phone calls on this one because it's got a lot of neighbors. So a lot of letters were received, and a lot of concerns about apartments and that sort of thing. And so the R3 does not allow for that. It's just as we looked at on the previous request, it's single family, 10,000 square feet lot size. So again, consistent with the development that's around it from the standpoint of lot size and that sort of thing. So
Sort of gets up on the hill there, doesn't it?
it does. It is some pretty steep topography on this property. So the yield's probably not going to be real high because of that. But with a 10,000 square foot lot versus 15,000, that gives them a little bit of flexibility for the areas that are a little bit flatter. They could concentrate
Well, it falls
more.
right in place with everything around them that's currently there.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't it just the area that separates Hidden Hills and, is it Hunters Point or?
Yeah, it is. It's directly in between Hidden Hills and Hunters Point Annex.
Did
You
we
also
look-
have St. John's Wood in that area.
Did we look at this at one time, or?
I don't know if we've ever had this looked at before. I don't remember.
I think what we looked at is the part that was closer to Rocky Fork.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, we do have,
Okay.
we have had concept plans for more further development of Hidden Hills, but not this
That
specific
we
parcel.
wanted that brought on out to the Rocky Fork to
Okay.
tie in with that. It was the last thing, I think, in this general area that we looked at.
Well, it's certainly good to see that we're looking at this and we're looking at it with an R3 versus an R6 that would allow apartments, and I think this would be in keeping with all the neighborhoods in that area.
Where would the entrance be to it?
Well, again, you got roads stubbed into it in 4 places. We would want, because you have Williamsport Drive with developed homes on both ends, so we certainly would want that to connect. You also have Bonifay Drive and High Ridge Drive or Court, or I can't remember what it actually is, off of Spinnaker, that all connect to it as well. So you have 4 different locations where roads could be extended, roads and utilities. So again, we would want Williamsport to connect through the site. Other than that, we'd have to see, I guess. But at minimum, those stub streets are going to have cul-de-sacs put on them just to provide turnarounds. But I would assume that there would be extension as well. But again, it depends. It's some pretty significant topography on this property, so it's going to dictate a lot of it. So.
Okay, other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll move we approve.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 2 under rezoning, Florence Road. Staff comments.
This is a request for a piece of property. It's at the corner of Florence Road and Rebel Road. It's about 3.7 acres. Has been requested to be rezoned from R1 to C2. Surrounding zoning is a mix of R1, R3, and I3 in town. And then you also have the RM zoning in Rutherford County, which would be on the east side of Florence Road in this area. Land use plan would support medium density residential in this area. So obviously C2 wouldn't quite fit that. So We've had a lot of calls on this one as well from neighbors who are concerned about C2 here. So I guess that's all that I have at this time.
Do we have any idea of an intended use on this one?
The only thing we have been told is some convenience store, gas station type use. Obviously, C2 would allow a lot of other things too. But that's what they had, the only indication we have had from them is that use.
Everything around it's residential with the exception of the opposite corner where it's the I-3.
The Steel Technologies building that's
Right.
still under construction, or I think it may have.
Their
finished the
second
first
building,
phase.
right?
Right. Of course, that has no access to Rebel Road,
Right.
but
Coming off
but that
Florence.
is the only thing other than residential, yes.
You know, just unless this is something that the neighborhood itself found convenient, I personally don't see the fit here. I just, you know, with residential around it, all around it, and industrial across the street, it would have to be something I would think as a neighbor that I wanted to have a convenience store in my neighborhood. Otherwise, I just don't see it being a C2 plopped in there. It just doesn't seem like a good fit to me.
I agree with Mark. It's a hard fit, and we looked at something very similar to this across town, off of Amable Road, as I recall. And it was, again, putting a C2 use next to, you know, residential, and I don't remember if it was R1 or 3 at the time. But in my mind, if we were looking at something like this, you know, I'd like to know that there was support in the neighborhood for it, and being that we're going to a strict, you know, C2 zone, that opens it up. If you know, the owner decided not to go with a convenience store, then we've kind of opened Pandora's box. And I'd almost want to see it at a PUD at that point, if we were, and again, if there was support for it for this location.
It's more of a neighborhood type. If you're gonna consider a straight rezone, a neighborhood,
A C4
a
zone.
C4
Right.
would fit better. But I also think a PUD, then you know exactly what you're getting, and also the neighbors know exactly what's coming in there. And that certainly makes sense.
Well, we put a lot of effort with the existing I-3 as far as lighting control, noise control, and things like that to protect the integrity of the neighborhoods prior to, and I just don't know that we get it with what I'm looking at. I'm more comfortable with if we were doing a step down to a C4 or a PUD.
There's 6 lots that back up to that property immediately, and then all those acreage plots across the street. And again, I just have to think that it just feels like you're squeezing a zone in there that doesn't make sense to me. If I don't live out there, but if I did, would I want the convenience of a store rather than having to go into town or whatever? That's the question. But I think as a fit overall, if the neighbors didn't want it, I certainly don't see where
And
it makes
possibly the
sense.
answer would be yes, but.
Possibly,
But
right.
you.
You still don't see two.
With a PUD.
Yeah.
You know exactly what you're getting.
That's right.
And I like that idea even better than a neighborhood commercial. So, all that being said, do I have a motion?
A motion to deny.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, that we do not recommend this rezone. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under new business, item C, preliminary plats, Rocky Fork Road, staff comments.
This is preliminary plats, the Blakeney subdivision on Rocky Fork Road, it's a PRD. This is for 16.27 acres of that PRD, 55 lots proposed. There were a lot of comments, a lot of these were standard comments, or they had also submitted construction plans, we had sent those plans, construction comments to them as well. We had a few staff comments, and basically those 5 comments there, we have actually not received anything, any revised plans since these comments were sent, so we don't have anything to mark off on that. At this time, CUD has said the fire protection cannot be provided here. However, there is an off-site water line upgrade that's underway that will take care of that. So obviously we could not issue any building permits on this project until that was completed. This is similar to the same project that the Cedar Hills project on Morton Lane. It's that same water line upgrade. So again, it's underway, but until it's completed, we couldn't issue any building permits. But if they wanted to move forward, with the infrastructure installation and that sort of thing, they could do that. That they're obviously they're kind of at the mercy of when that water line upgrade gets made to make that happen as far as houses to be constructed. So I guess we could go over all the individual comments, but like I said, nothing has specifically been addressed with these plans. And I guess that's all that I've got this time.
Is there any idea with CUD, Kevin, how far away the water upgrade is? Time-wise?
I know it's underway, but I really don't know what timeline is specific, no.
What are the required improvements at Morton and Rocky Fork?
Well, it's what we had talked about with when the PRD was submitted, and it's basically to Morton Lane hits Rocky Fork Road at a very strange angle at this location. It's basically to straighten that, and then the idea was that it would be a connection into this development directly across from it. They have said they would work on that or do that with the next phase of this, which is, if you look at the C1.0, is phase 2. Our concern is phase 2 doesn't happen. You've got a road coming in at an odd location there as it is today, where Morton Lane currently hits there now.
Don't those first 2 or 3 lots, wouldn't that interfere with anything you would do to improve that connection there with Morton?
Potentially, or the discussion was possibly to basically relocate Morton, I guess, to the north or northwest and align with, make it more of a direct perpendicular intersection with Rocky Fork Road.
With
The entrance to phase 2, I think.
With the
Near the
entrance to phase 2.
Right. That was our discussion with that. Again, with this location where it's at, without that improvement, again, if phase 2 doesn't happen or doesn't happen for some time, you're going to have an odd offset with this new roadway.
Isn't that just going to be a real strange left and right
Yeah.
coming out, going into Morton?
Again, if Morton was relocated, it would work. But as it is today, doesn't really work.
Do they control the other side of the road?
That's part of the issue. They don't on that parcel there. So again, we haven't seen anything as far as, there might be other thoughts or ways we can make it work, but that's when our main concern, I guess, is with this roadway for phase one and just where that hits in relationship to the existing Morton Lane, that's our concern as it's being proposed.
I'm talking out loud to ask a question. The proposed entrance to Phase 2, if they couldn't acquire the property across to straighten out Morton Road, would that intersection be preferred over the intersection to Phase 1 as an option? If you could only have one or the other, and you couldn't straighten out Morton Lane, would not the entrance to Phase 2 be a preference, I guess is my question? From a traffic funky corner,
Yeah, because you wouldn't have opposing left turns at that point.
so I guess what I'm seeing is Phase 2, if they were to offer it and then couldn't, then you could rework Phase 1, eliminate the entrance, rework the lots and have the entrance at Phase 2 as your main entrance into the subdivision.
And then maybe phase one entrance
Is further down,
moves further
further.
south and east.
Yeah, further
Yeah.
south.
Yeah,
Spread them out from the funky intersection.
that certainly would be an option, yeah.
Okay.
Because most of that frontage there is part of their retention area anyway, isn't it?
And some amenity areas, some playgrounds and that sort of thing. But yeah, it is a lot of detention, and that's probably the most logical place for the detention to be, and that's probably why it's there. And so moving it would make it harder in that regard. From a drainage standpoint, they'd have to figure something else out.
I guess what I'm saying is if they couldn't acquire the land across the road, the entrance to Phase 2 is preferable to what they're showing now, if that's the only entrance we had.
Right.
What's the total number of units in all four phases?
It was 260, I think. That's my memory right there, so I don't know, I may be off a little, but in that ballpark.
Well, construction can't start now anyway because they don't have water, is that correct?
Well, as far as any homes being built, yes. Yeah, I mean, they could start putting roads and everything in there. And I think that's kind of what they're wanting to do, so it's, when the water upgrade is done, the lots are there and ready to go.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
That's a really dangerous entrance there. I personally think it ought to be addressed in the beginning and we know exactly what we have before we start approving anything piecemeal. Because what we see is exactly what we could end up with.
I'm not comfortable going forward with this type of intersection.
You could literally have somebody turning left on Morgan and immediately right into the neighborhood with oncoming traffic. That's kind of just kind of like shooting the gap to get across the road.
You pull out real quick in front of somebody, and then they're going to try to back.
So what's the wishes of the commission here?
I personally think the way it appears here, like the rest of the comments, I'm not comfortable approving it the way it appears here without that being on the plats. I'd make the motion to deny it on its appearance here.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. And I'm not aware of any other major issues that we saw on this, but certainly this is the major issue that we need addressed. So, any other discussion? Motion to deny and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. That's ugly. Under preliminary plats, item number 2, Lee Victory Parkway, staff comments.
Yeah, this is a preliminary plat, 5 lots, 8.73 acres, zone C2. This is the property you all looked at a couple months ago for rezoning. It was approved by council. We had 5 standard comments to remain, and then we had 3 under staff comments. I can go ahead and real easily tell you number 3 has been taken care of. We can take number 3 off. Number 1 and number 2, they have indicated on number 1, previously the flood elevation they had indicated was 532, and it does have to be at least a foot above finished floors, and they had 4 and 5 were not a foot above 532, but they have, the floodplain elevation actually does decrease as it goes downstream, and so that does take care of number 1 from the standpoint of the MFE being a little bit below 533. Number 2 is regarding the existing egress easement. There's kind of a double thing here. You have the area which we looked at when you asked the rezoning request was considered. You have the area, the strip of land that's actually owned by Parkway Baptist Church that was provided that they actually own it, and so was not an easement. They actually own the property to provide a secondary access for the church. And then prior to that being done, though, there was an access easement, ingress egress access easement granted to the town across the property that connects to property that the town was given for park purposes. I had asked for some clarification on that. I actually was submitted a copy of the easement. The easement actually expired because it wasn't used within 5 years. So technically, I guess that easement doesn't technically exist anymore, even though it was granted. Obviously, and I've talked with the developer, and they're willing to work with the town on that easement. If we still want to keep that, which I think we probably still do, we probably are looking more so for access on the other end of the property. But I think we don't want to completely do away with this as an option, I guess. None of these lots can have direct access to Lee Victory Parkway because of the limited access. This is in the limited access area for that roadway. So all these, they are providing a new access easement across Lot 2 for Lot 1. At this time, they basically just want to keep that existing easement and show that existing easement for Lots 3, 4, and 5. It's a little bit fluid, I guess, as to what may end up happening. They may have 5 lots, they may end up with only 2 lots or 3 lots or whatever, depending on who comes along and actually builds here. And so I think they do kind of want to leave that easement there now to provide access to lots 3, 4, and 5 on that side of the property. So, they have addressed that, I guess, if you all are comfortable with that easement. They could provide access across lots 3 and 4, just as they are proposing a loss across lot 2 if they need to in the future. But I think like I said, we had to have the standard comments, and I think that's all that I've got.
So the main thing you're looking for is that when we do the final, that they provide an access easement to the city for the city property that is adjacent to this and behind Adelaide Park. Is that correct?
Right. Basically, the existing easement that they're showing, that it be provided again, I guess.
Or also, I assume you don't care if they redirect that.
If they redirect it some, because in reality, this property is entirely within the 100-year floodplain, so there's going to have to be a lot of cut and fill done. And so, depending on the actual grading plan, it might be better at a different location. Obviously, so without knowing that exactly, we don't know that yet right now, where that's all going to take place, really. So, so yeah, if it changes location a little bit, I think we're okay with that too,
So the comment then is to provide an access
for the town.
for the town.
And for
Not
3, 4,
necessarily build a road to it, but provide the access.
the easement, right. And then obviously to provide access for 3, 4, all 5 of the lots, 3, 4, and 5. If they want to do that with the same easement, we're okay with that too, I think. Just that that easement does need to be there because of, they can't have access directly to Lee Victory Parkway, so.
All right.
The only access all of them would have would be the existing road that Parkway uses now for
Correct.
one of their exits.
That is correct.
Yeah, and that doesn't change.
Yeah, TDOT's not going to change that.
No,
so.
that doesn't change. Okay. Y'all have any more questions? Have a motion?
I'll move we approve the staff comments.
Have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under new business, item D, final plats, Cantrell Farms, Section 1. Staff comments.
Yeah, this is the final plat for the Section 1 of the single-family portion of this development. This is where it is accessed from Chicken Pike at Longhorn Drive. It's 8.90 acres, 34 lots, is in the Cantrell Farms PRD. We had basically 4 kind of more or less standard comments. Nothing major there on those. But again, it does extend Longhorn Drive from where it currently is at in the Burton Farms development. Extends it into the next plan on your agenda is gets you into the first phase of the townhouses that are on that would also be connected to here. So it's consistent with the approved PRD, and everything's in order.
Have a motion?
Move to approve staff comments.
Have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Under site plans, Cantrell Farms, Section 2, staff comments.
This is the second phase of that final plan you just looked at for townhomes. Proposed site plan for Cantrell Farms Section 2 consists of 7.59 acres located at Chicken Pike and Longhorn Drive. Property is currently zoned PRD, and the proposed use for townhomes, which is allowed by right in this PRD. Property is bound to the north by mobile home subdivision, to the east by Cantrell Farms Section 1, to the south by duplexes, and to the west by Old Nashville Highway. Surrounding zoning consists of R1 and R3 in the town and RM in the county. As proposed, the site may be accessed from Old Nashville Highway. Square footage of vehicular use area, proposing 32,300 square feet, which would require 3,230 square foot of open space landscaping. That is exactly what they're proposing as well. Parking required 88 spaces, they're proposing for 150. And handicap, they are meeting it with 1 space required. Landscape plan submitted by the applicant shows trees and shrubs planted along Old Nashville Highway with shrubs and trees spread throughout the development as well. Architectural elevations have not been submitted by the applicant. It was stated by the applicant that they plan on using the existing elevations that were submitted when they got the property rezoned to PRD. Proposed site is not located within the 100-year floodplain, and future land use plan identifies proposed site as suitable for low-density single-family residential development. A couple standard comments with CUD in there as well, grading plan comments as well, and a couple staff comments. Staff comment 1 to submit street name approvals from 911 along with labeling street names. Staff comment 2 is what I just touched on with architectural elevations. And staff comment 3 to show the 1-foot contour elevations on the grading plans. The staff would recommend approval with these comments.
We do have, I think we do have on here the, no, maybe not. Thought we may have had the elevations, but I guess we don't. But it is, I mean, they have stated that they're going to make them consistent with what was approved as a PRD, which was which you all looked at that time and were okay with. So,
Well, why don't we make that staff comment that not only they meet design review requirements and are consistent with the submitted PRD approval.
Right.
Just clarify it a little bit more, because we have seen it there.
Right. The layout and everything, it is consistent with what was shown on the PRD.
Other questions? Have a motion.
I'll move we approve with staff comments, including the, how do we phrase that?
It's consistent.
Consistent with the PRD approval.
Have a second.
Second.
Any other discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Estes Express. Staff comments.
This is a proposed expansion onto the existing Estes terminal expansion. Consists of 42.17 acres located at 123 Street Industrial Road. Property is currently zoned I-3, and the proposed use is for truck terminals, which is allowed by right in the I-3 zoning district. Property is bound to the north and south by other industrial buildings, to the east by Street Industrial Road, and to the west by Sam Ridley Parkway. Surrounding zoning consists of C2 and I-3. As proposed, the site may be accessed from the existing entrance off 3 Industrial. Proposing square footage vehicular use area, 29.38 acres, which would require 2.35 acres of landscaping. They are proposing for 2.65. Total parking required of 44 car spaces. They're proposing after this addition to have 293 car spaces, 180 tractor spaces, 522 trailer spaces, 182 dock spaces, totaling out to 1,177 total spaces. Handicap spacing required 7, and they're proposing for 8. Landscape plan submitted by the applicant shows trees and shrub varieties planted around the perimeter of the lot. Architectural elevations submitted by the applicant show materials and colors to be used are similar with the existing building of primarily metal. Proposed site is not located in the 100-year floodplain, and future land use plan identifies the proposed site as suitable for heavy industrial development. A couple standard comments and no staff comments, so staff would recommend approval.
The building square footage of 46,074, Is that the total, or is that what is being proposed?
That is what is the addition, I believe, correct?
That's the proposed addition,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what the total that brings it to?
The other one's 57.
57, 280.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's 100,000 or so.
I know they've proposed landscaping. We're getting awful close to Sam Ridley. With tractor trailer parking, it looks like they're almost getting fairly. Do we need to think about a buffer or, I mean, we can see the trucks now, it's a question.
Yeah, they're,
Right against the on-ramp.
they're probably anywhere from, their proposal, probably at the closest point's about 30 feet or so from Sam Ridley to asphalt.
I mean, we all know they're there. It's not like they've been hiding from us, but they have been kind of further away. This is getting the trucks and trailers real close. And it's just a question.
Well, I think one of the issues is gonna be the elevation. The road is so much higher. It's higher than the property. I don't know that you ever have a buffer that's really gonna work, I don't believe. What did staff does it meet our recommendation,
I mean, in industrial zones, we allow for 8% of the landscaping versus 10 and that sort of thing, or as far as 8% of the paved area. And they are meeting that, they're actually exceeding it. So from the standpoint of what we would require, they're meeting our requirements typically. There's no, all the surrounding zoning is non-residential, so there's not a buffer necessarily required that we would typically look at. They are planting trees and shrubs along there. I mean, it's probably, as the chairman said, I mean, you are elevated above it, so I mean, it's gonna be tough to really hide it. But, and you can certainly, they can soften it up a little bit with some of the landscaping they are proposing.
essentially, we could request some trees since they meet our regulation, it'd be hard to require anymore, I would assume.
Right.
We could request it there. Yes, sir.
Stephen Brown, Gresham Smith and Partners. We prepared the site plan and the landscape plan, and if I could answer some of your questions. First off, when you're looking at a plan on this type of scale, the scale is a little bit deceiving. We do have a fairly decent sized strip of what is about 25 feet in between parking and the property line, which is the fence of Sam Ridley. So there's in my opinion, a pretty good buffer area there. There is some grade, yes. As we get close to the fence, we're closer to the grade of Sam Ridley. I'll point out there's some existing tree masses. The owner planted a lot of trees along that fence line about 15 years ago when that site was originally developed. And if you go out there today and look into it, there's not a complete, but a pretty good buffer. I believe the trees do grow up tall enough so that the average car height, viewing height, can't see into there really well.
So essentially that 25 feet that you're talking about, is that gonna be like a non-disturbance area? You don't plan on grading that out, do you?
No, we don't propose a non-disturbed area there. I'm simply stating
You're not
that that's
planning
going to
on-
be a green
you're not-
area where we're going to
You're not
plant.
planning on grading the existing trees, though, are you?
There are some of the existing trees that are going to be graded. Some of them will be left in place, but we are proposing augmenting planting along that entire strip there.
There's like several oak trees and tulips and sweet gums. There's a pretty big variety of trees they're gonna plant through that area. Could get pretty tall.
Unless they're graded down.
Well, I'm talking about the new ones that they're talking about planting.
new trees after the grading's done.
Okay. Okay, do y'all have other questions for the applicant here? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
A second, get on the floor.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
As I understand it, the plan as proposed meets our requirements, correct?
Yes.
It almost looks to me too like they're out of expansion space.
Yeah, this expansion was kind of shown as a future expansion or future growth area when it was originally built and came through planning commission like roughly 15 years ago. And basically they're finishing out what they had started, I guess, in that regard.
Kevin, you had mentioned, or I think it was mentioned about, it's 2 point some odd acres with the landscaping, is that correct?
I think it's 2.65, something like that, yeah, of total.
How is that distributed, or do we need to look at how that's distributed?
Well, it's primarily around the perimeter, and then on the front of the site, there's quite a bit of the detention area, and there's a lot of landscaping kind of in the front too. It's a big part of the bulk, I guess. But
I think the biggest thing I'm hearing is just visibility, and it's like Trey said, it's there and it's been there for a long, long, long time. And but I agree with Chairman. It's I don't think you can plant your way out of that elevation right there. It looks down onto the site. I don't know how much good we're doing ourselves by trying to screen it with foliage.
yeah, like I said, you can help. Make it look
It needs some
better.
years to grow, is my point. It's not gonna-
Give it some years to grow, and it'll kind of fill in some. Probably won't hide it, but at least it'll, like I said, make it look a little bit better.
What's the surface? Concrete, asphalt?
I believe it's asphalt. It's not the, like we looked at a few, one time with gravel. No, it's not that.
What was the answer?
Some of it's mostly asphalt. There is some that's concrete, with the actual docks themselves and all. I think are going to be concrete, but primarily heavy duty.
It is a
asphalt.
hard surface.
It's primarily the heavy duty asphalt. Other than there is some light duty in the front for just personal vehicles.
All right, any other questions? Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, Heartland Dental.
Yeah, proposed site plan for Heartland Dental consists of 1.16 acres located at Almonville Road and Lee Victory Parkway. Property is currently zoned C2, and the proposed use is for dental office, which is allowed by right in the C2 district. Property is bound to the north by Starbucks, to the east by Lee Victory Parkway, to the south by vacant tract of land, and to the west by Almonville Road. Surrounding zoning consists of C2. As proposed, the site may be accessed from an existing ingress-egress through the Lee Village development. Proposed square footage vehicular use area, 19,989 square feet, which would require 1,998 square foot. We didn't get an accurate proposed number. They didn't resubmit after our second staff review, so that's still up in the air. We have that as a staff comment later as well. Total parking, 16 spaces is required, and they're proposing for 42. Handicap parking required 2, and they're proposing for 2 as well. Landscape plan submitted by the applicant shows variety of trees and shrubs planted throughout the property, with shrubs lining the perimeter of the lot and the building itself. Architectural elevations submitted by the applicant show primary materials of stone and ephes. Proposed site is not located within the 100-year floodplain, and future land use plan that identifies proposed site as suitable for office, retail, multifamily, residential development. Couple standard comments, as well as grading plan comments, as well as 3 staff comments. Staff comment 1, show and label all access easements. 2, show total landscape square footage, not including open space and grass area. And 3, to submit 10 full-size elevation copies. And with those comments, staff would recommend approval.
Is this the last out parcel?
There's one more small triangular lot to the south of it, but I'm not sure if it's fully developed.
Yeah, I think that's the little area there.
Is that the
actually the detention pond? There's one lot, I guess it'd be along Allenville Road on that side. Between Starbucks and Allenville Road, there's a lot
So
there.
there's maybe one more out parcel on this,
I think there's another one on the other side of the shopping center on Allenville Road, kind of set up similar to where
kind of in behind it,
Yeah.
but,
the
okay,
front's on Allenville Road.
all right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I assume all the cross easements and everything's in place from,
Right, there is one there, we just asked them to label it. But there is easements there, yes. It was done when the plat was done and developed originally.
anything else? Have a motion.
Move to approve the staff comments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, moving on to item 5, Storage Nation, staff comments.
Yeah, item 4 was withdrawn. I've got, yeah. Item 5, this is a request to amend a site plan approval. This is for development Storage Nations on Wolverine Trail. It's under construction already. It's about 7 acres. The building total square footage is about 105,546 square feet. It's broken up into 7 buildings. Those were required as part of the site plan approval to be a mix of brick and stone. The request is to amend for Building 5, which is the building in the very back of the property, to allow for metal to be used on the rear of the building as well as one side, which would be the side, if you're facing the development to the right or to the south, would be the side that you're talking about. The reason they've asked for it, the site excavation did create kind of a rock bluff on the rear and that side. And so that bluff kind of ranges from 8 feet to 14 feet tall.
And that bluff is where the apartments are.
Where the
is that
apartments
correct?
are, and then also on the south side, it's the commercial development where Hobby Lobby and TJ Maxx is on the south side, but the east side is the apartments, correct?
Now, on the side that's behind Hobby Lobby and there, has all the grading been done? Because it looks like there's essentially a berm there.
It is, yeah. That is actually on the Hobby Lobby property, and that was there and put in place really by that
So
developer.
any of the grading that's going to be done has already been done, and
Correct.
what is left is the way it's going to be.
Correct.
That's a pretty good bluff there, too.
It is. It's in the same, it kind of has the same, that at the tallest point, which is that southeastern corner of the property, is about 14 feet, and it kind of goes down as you go towards Wolverine Trail. Again, the building is about 12, majority of the building is about 12 feet 8 inches tall, so part of the building would be completely hidden by the bluff, part of it not as much, once it gets down to that 8-foot bluff area. So the elevations we have in front of you there show the metal that they're wanting to use. There is the berm and buffer is there on the south side. There's also some landscape buffer on the apartment side as well.
How many buildings does this affect?
This only affects the one building,
The very,
the waiver. Yeah, there's 5 storage buildings, and then there's the one that's basically just a canopy for RV boat storage, and then the office. But this is just building 5, which is the very back building, is the only one that this would affect, and only on the 2 sides, not all 4.
I'll be glad to answer any specific questions
Yeah.
on the developer side. If y'all have anything
all right.
to interject.
And what's the reason for the change? Because they realize now that it's
Come
kind
up,
of
give
hid?
us your name.
Well, I think
You can't see it now.
there's some other reasons too. I think.
Yeah,
Rock
but
Bluff's
did
the
the
thing.
Rock Bluff just come since we started doing it?
Excavated it,
Okay.
it was there.
Yeah.
It was there, but once they took it,
Well, when it was originally drawn, it was thought that the building would be up level with the ground, and when they did it, now the building's down in the ground, so you can't see it.
My name's Rich Davis. I'm the developer of the storage project. And really, 2 things. One is after we got the elevations all done on the site work, we're kind of down. There's a shear wall, so you can't really see the back of the building. And also, there's only about 4 to 6 feet between the shear wall and the building too. And I thought it might be a reasonable request to kind of potentially, we're asking for to put a taupe colored metal that matches our roofs just on the back of that one building. And then TJ Maxx and Hobby Lobby came in and built this large berm. So it's at the south side, would face that. And then, of course, the north side, we'd keep stone, which faces the gas easement and a few residential homes. Of course, all the other buildings are stone and brick, including the office is completely stone and brick. And then the very front building, which faces Wolverine, there's no doors or anything. It's just all stone. So, we tried to keep that kind of office look to it because it was kind of in that area. So
All the buildings pretty much done except for the exterior.
buildings 1, 2, and 3, all the stone and brick is already on. Building 4, the roof's going on, and I think building 5 is framed up, but we're getting close to putting the skin on it and all that. So we're asking just for a little relief on the back of the building and that one side facing the berm. So I think the spirit of everything to be stone and brick is still out there, and you can see it, and it will be. So
Kevin, do we have the authority to approve it, or do we recommend it? This was approved as a PUD,
It was
correct?
approved as a PUD. I have a little bit of leeway. I didn't feel comfortable approving it administratively. You all, I think, can approve this.
I didn't know if it had to go back to council since it
I-
was approved as a PUD.
I would consider this a minor enough change that it could, if you all are okay with it, it would be okay. But certainly if you all don't want to, you want to make it a PUD amendment, we could do that. But that's, it's a little bit more involved, and we would have to advertise and that sort of thing, as far as the legal notice and that sort of thing, but that's up to, it's my opinion, I guess, that it would be something that you all could approve just as a site plan amendment within the PUD parameters.
And probably a small portion of this is going to be visible, right? It's not going to be
I don't know.
a large, if any.
Well, I did drive out there. There is a big berm that is behind the Hobby Lobby and the TJ Maxx, and you said that's on their property. And I didn't know if that was going to be moved. That was one of the questions I had. And then the apartments are 40 feet above it and looking down on it. It's similar, this is a similar request that we did on some of those properties over there where they backed up. Maybe even
The movie theater is
The
one.
movie theater that was up
Yeah.
against.
Multifamily
that
on
sheer
that side,
cliff.
yeah, yeah.
And I've got a question. This may be something Trey may know more about than I do, but I'm looking at these drawings, and on drawing number 04, I'm seeing that that's a front, or I guess that's a front elevation, right? It's an east elevation.
It's an east.
Yeah. And it has a vertical ribbed metal siding that wraps across the top of that, whereas, and it's a taller siding. I'm just wondering, is that doable where we're talking about
Yes,
this?
see, that's what he's asking to change. All
Yeah.
the rest of them have been this. So you go to there.
And not this?
That's the back.
Right.
So the back is gonna look like this.
Right.
Versus, yes, because that's,
You see what I'm
The-
saying?
That was
Yes.
always metal.
Yeah,
This
this
is what
one-
he's asking to change.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
But he's wanting to go with metal here too?
Yes.
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 Okay.
and here as well. Because see,
Right.
otherwise it would look like that one all the way around.
Okay, I understand it. Thank you.
He's keeping two sides the way we originally had it, because you can see it.
Yeah.
Those two are now behind, up against this bluff.
Yeah, I knew he was wanting to change that. I was just wondering about this taller vertical wrap.
Yeah.
It's already there anyway, though.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
He's keeping it. Get rid of that.
Do I have a motion?
It's already painted, but he's trying to keep the continuity. Yeah. That's what I was asking.
I'll move we approve.
We'll have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm going to vote no because I voted against it as I put in the beginning, but I really don't have a problem with this change since it's already there.
Tomato, tomato.
Yes. Motion carried. March bond review.
Yeah, we got several this month. Burton Farms, Section 5, Phase 4, as well as Burton Farms, Section 5, Phase 3. These are both nearing completion. They're talking with the developer. They're trying to finish up. The rain and the weather has delayed them. We are recommending both of those be reduced to $10,000 and be extended 1 year as the maintenance bond. It's just some maintenance issues and as-built is all that's left on that. Speedway, this was just for the sewer extension to serve that building. There are a few issues to clean up that I've talked with the developer, and that's their intent to finish that up before March 20th. We're okay releasing that if they can do that. These are pretty minor issues, but if not, then we could extend it, but reduce it substantially because it doesn't need to be $400,000 anymore.
What would you want it?
If we have to renew it, what amount would, there's
And
not
talking
much
with
reason
Artie-
to require a 400,000 one, is it?
No, I mean, this is, I mean, it's just a couple $1,000s worth of work, quite frankly. So
10 as far as the bond then?
Probably 10, yeah. 10, if they get done, we can just release it though. Villages, Section 1, some road repairs where they had some utility cuts as well as some utility issues there. We would recommend extension to that 1 year. That's when, we've only had that a year. We would recommend extension of that because they're still under construction out there. Addition to Village of Valley Green, Section 2, Phase 1. I think it's actually just Phase 1, not 1A. This is, did talk to the developer. They're looking at paving that as soon as possible. So we would recommend extension of that to allow that to take place, along with some other repairs. Lennox Phase 1 2B. They did indicate they would be paving that this spring. They are nearing completion out there. So we would recommend extending that one to allow that to be done. Woodmont Phase 3B, really, they have paved out there. This is actually the end of the maintenance period, but there's just some final things they've got to finish up. They did request that we extend that 6 months to allow the completion, just so the weather would allow them to finish those things up. And then Hidden Hills, Section 4, Phase 1, they have contracted with a paver to finish up the work, and so we did recommend an extension on that to allow them to finish that up as well. I think the weather has delayed a lot of things getting done right now. So anyway, that's our recommendation on the bond report.
Have a motion,
I'll move to approve.
have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the bond report. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
And I just want to pass this along, I did have just a note requested that you all, I guess, did to speak, then clarify some things on the Blakely subdivision, if you want to just look at that. You've already acted on it. So I don't know if you want to talk to them or not. They did ask that they are here, and Mike could speak to provide more clarity tonight on that subdivision, if you all want
Please
to
give
hear
your name.
Luke Kuntz with Land Solutions, and I apologize, I had to run out. I am brand new with the company, so I apologize that I needed
Just no telling what happens when you leave the room.
I left the room and had to make a quick call to clarify something on this project, on what you guys were discussing. And I walked back in and something else was on the screen. I said, oh no. Talking about the piece of property to the northwest of Morton Lane, speaking to that and about the road realignment, I believe discussions were had with staff concerning if an agreement could not be reached with that landowner, then a payment from the developer in lieu of the improvement would be made to the town, so that some improvement, you guys could use the funds to make some improvement to that road area, or to straighten it, or to, if you could reach an agreement with that owner, let's say that we can't, then a payment would be made in lieu of that. And that's what I wanted to mention, that I came back in a little too late for.
Well, I think our real issue here is if we approved what we saw, and it wouldn't matter of any kind of payment, we weren't going to be able to fix it. And if you can't realign it, if we can't come to something that we feel like is a better solution, then that entrance maybe needs to be moved further away from Morton Lane, where from a safety issue, because when it's almost there but not there, you're going to have people, shooting across, and the design is awful if you just look at it. And from a safety situation, I think we want to know what we're going to have. And if we approve this, we could be approving lots where an entrance needs to be. I mean, you have a lot of road frontage there to work with. And we just want to know what the solution is before we approve it on some type of contingent basis.
Sure. Would a traffic study be helpful in determining that area?
It probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
I believe we have one completed that we would.
Traffic engineer take a look at it and make recommendations. Wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, we just want to know, we want the uncertainty somewhat removed from what we are approving. Because if we approve it the way it's drawn, it's set, it's fixed. And I don't know that it's fixable at that point in time, past there.
And I think that's what I understood that payment would be,
With the payment, you're
Made
putting
to-
the burden back on us, and we're saying we're not taking the burden.
Sure.
Well,
I think it's somewhat.
I don't necessarily know that I'm opposed to taking the burden if we know what it is. If we know what we're gonna have to do. If we know that it's gonna involve a eminent domain issue
Which could be,
where we fix the road and then we see what that is. I don't think we can identify it right now, and we want it identified more than just what we saw.
and may I ask one question? So, understanding the process, this gets deferred to, assumably to next
No,
month's-
actually, it was turned down, but you can come back at any time.
It was, yeah, it was turned down.
You can come back
But
any
you can,
time.
but turned down or deferred, you're still able to come back next month, either way.
Okay, do you, but before this would be, you could approve this, you need in concrete either an agreement from that owner stating that the improvement can be made across the property, or,
We
I just want to, when I come back, I want to have
Well,
everything.
I think what he's
I
saying,
think that's gonna be, we want staff to bring back a recommendation of how this interchange needs to be and needs to look.
Yeah,
And
and we can
bottom
work
line
with
is,
them.
we didn't like what we saw tonight.
Okay, I just want to come back
Sure.
complete and not,
Understand?
Kevin, I'm
Have to do
throwing
it
this
again.
out. Is that Rocky Fork too busy of a road, I guess, really, to put any kind of roundabout thought there?
I don't know, we haven't really talked about
I'm just,
specifics. I mean,
I know
I
on
don't
Chicken
know.
Pike, we looked at that
That-
with a similar angle,
Yeah,
and that's why I asked the question.
that certainly, we could look at that.
That slows everybody down, but it's a
It
busy
might
road.
be, it requires, typically those require more right-of-way than a conventional
Yeah.
intersection, but it might work. I mean, we could take a look at that.
But we ran into the same issue on Chicken Pike
That's right,
where
yeah.
we were,
They couldn't acquire
they
the
couldn't
property,
acquire it.
and so we had to fix it with another exit out on
Exactly.
the old National
Oh,
and I
Highway.
think that's what we're trying to tell you
Sure,
is it
thank
may
you.
be the possibility you need to look at
Changing the design.
changing the drives.
development
I
a little
understand.
You know, when we looked at it both from planning and from council, there's a lot of folks in here that were concerned about the way the traffic was gonna go and whatnot, and, my fear, and I'm not sure, I'm gonna say it's a fear, but what I'm gonna be very cognizant of is making sure that we do something that we don't create an inherent issue where we're gonna have accident after accident after accident, because that's exactly what the folks said they didn't want. They didn't want to create something where, it was prone to accident, and they're already upset enough about as far as the additional traffic that's eventually gonna build out here over the years. So I think we gotta fix this on the front end and make sure we're comfortable with it.
Because if there's not a fix with Morton Lane that is acceptable, then we have to look at where those entrances are
Right.
located to have more stacking room and more room to turn in and out of your subdivision. And also, if you look at how this is with other property, there could be more sections in the future that come through to this same
Most
area,
likely will.
and most likely will be. So that was our reasoning on it.
Thank you. And Kevin, you had mentioned that you were going to bring up something and then I interrupted everything. Was this what you were going to say about this property?
As far as, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, I thought you had further comment to
No,
add,
I
and
really didn't.
I jumped up and interrupted everything.
I didn't. I just was just saying that you all would wanted to, an opportunity to speak and kind of maybe provide some clarity that might, and I think I'm glad we talked, so I think you all know a little bit more what we're looking for.
And I think this is the same conversation we had when you were out of the room.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Anybody else?
I want to congratulate Mike while he's got some camera time tonight, our Volunteer of the Year recipient this year for all his work in Smyrna, and just want to say congratulations, Mike. We appreciate you. That's all.
Very good. Congratulations. Anything else? We stand adjourned.